Welcome home to St.
I don't know why I
Anne's.
brought this with me. It's not like I use it. Please be seated.
We want you to know
something for
that
you
you're
to play
welcome
with.
to join us at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Please be sure to hit subscribe to receive our
Well,
sermons.
there's a happy
We
little
can't
gospel,
wait to
isn't
meet
it? Oh, that's a fun one. You're like, where are you going to go with that one, Meg? Maybe preach on the psalm. But you guys know my stance when things are difficult. What do? We wrestle. We wrestle. We wrestle until we find a blessing. And I really do think that there's a blessing here. I really, really do. Because it's really hard to be a Christian. Do you ever feel like you're just guessing all the time? Because there's so many mixed messages out there about what it means to be a Christian, right? And you're like, well, I don't want to get it wrong. Because it seems like a really bad thing to get wrong. Seeing how, like, you're like, well, if my eternity is, like, riding on this, I don't want to get it wrong. And I get that. Nobody wants to be wrong anyway. And, you don't really want to be that wrong. And so the comforting thing is that humans throughout time have wrestled with this question, the divine, which is the right answer, which is the correct way to go. What do? And right now I think that's especially complicated because there's just so many different views of what, and to be honest, probably since, 50s to 70s, Christianity has really taken a hit about what does it mean to be a Christian. We've had this rise of Christian nationalism, and Christianity looks like this, and if you're not doing it this way, then you're probably going to burn in hell. And you're like, well, I certainly don't want to do it that way. And I'll be honest, part of it is our fault. I think we all, especially as mainline Christians, we've had Christianity for a long time. Okay, like a long time. We invented universities. We invented science, like all these things. We've been doing this a really, really long time. And all of a sudden, like in the last few decades, we're like, no, it's fine. You get to define whatever Christianity is. Why? Why did we ever let somebody else define who we are and what we are? That's dumb. And I'll tell you why we did it, because we're lazy. We didn't want to argue with anybody. And we didn't want things to get weird and awkward. And so we were just like, whatever, it's fine. Nobody wouldn't believe them anyway because it's just so wild and crazy. Like, who would ever think that? Well, here we are. So, y'all, we have some onus in this. We define who we are and what we believe. And if you're not willing to stand up and say who you are and what you believe, I don't know if it's worth following God then, because what we are called to do is huge, enormous, what we are called to do. And if we are too uncomfortable to say who we are and what we believe, then I'm not sure we deserve Christianity. I guess that's kind of brutal. Sorry, not sorry. But that's where we are. And if our God is not incredible enough for us to be honest, then I don't think we're worthy of this. I really don't. And if we're so afraid that we've let other people define who and what we are, then here we are. But if perhaps it's comforting, throughout time, there has been this confusion of, well, what does it actually mean? And even the disciples are sometimes confused. And they say to Jesus, well, how will we know? We don't want to get it wrong. How will we know? Because we want to be absolutely sure. And the disciples wanted to be absolutely sure. They didn't want to sign on to something because, like, Jesus has been kind of giving hints that it might be uncomfortable at some point. And, like, they kind of like us don't like to be uncomfortable. Who here is like, I love me some discomfort. I would love to be persecuted against. Sign me up for being flayed, crucified, burned alive. That just sounds amazing. I'm looking for martyrdom. If you raise your hand to that, we're going to have another conversation. And I'm going to go into mental health mode about like, well, have we talked to somebody about that? Because the reality is nobody wants to be uncomfortable. We're humans. We want to be comfortable. And the disciples are the same. They're like, if I'm going to sign on to something that's like super, super uncomfortable, like I want to be sure about it. Right? Like you don't want to buy the uncomfortable jeans if they don't make your butt look good. You know, you want to be sure. Yeah, I went that direction. Why not? Here we are. And so they're like, well, how do we know? And just like, well, things are going to get real. That's the first sign. Are you ready for things to get real? And people are going to lie to you. People are going to lie to you. And they're going to say things that you want to hear. They're going to sell you things that are easy to buy. And you're going to be tempted to believe them. Anyone out there right now trying to sell you something that you know you probably shouldn't, any Christian faith out there saying to you, you know, if you're rich, that's how you know. God wants you to be happy. God wants you to be wealthy. God wants you to look good. God wants you to be successful. Every day is Friday. Every day is not Friday. In fact, if you're really truly following this, Fridays get pretty rare. You know what's not rare though? The resurrection on Easter morning, which happens on Sunday. Doesn't happen on Friday. You know what happens on Friday? Somebody who's never read the Bible doesn't know what happens on Friday. Anyone paid attention to what happens on Friday? We kill him. It's almost like people have taken our faith and our religion, haven't read the book, and are lying to us, but you know what? The lies feel good. The lies feel good. The lies are tempting, and they're contagious, and it's easy to pick up on them. So how do we know? How do we know? Because if we don't want to get it wrong, I'll be the first to be like, I've been doing this a really, really long time. You think I never question it? I absolutely. There are days when I'm like, I don't know about this. I'm not feeling so certain that I want to do this with my life anymore. Anyone never feel that way? Because we're going to have another conversation. Like maybe you should be sitting up here, not me. It's tough. It's hard. We're not certain. We're not sure. So how do we know? How do we know? Jesus is pretty clear. There's a litmus test. There is a litmus test for truth. What are the two first commandments, the greatest commandments? What are they? Love God and love your neighbor. If those two don't cover it, you are being lied to. You are being manipulated, and it's the worst kind of heresy because it's using God to get control over you. And sometimes those two first commandments aren't going to feel awesome. Sometimes they're going to be tough. Have you met your neighbor? Have you? Mine had some really obnoxious signs in their yard. And it was real hard. Not gonna lie. I was like, I'm gonna drive past your house and I'm gonna go kind of like this. And I'm gonna be like, I like your dog. You have a great dog. They do. Jasper's a great dog. Jasper died. But Jasper was a great dog. He would escape and he would come to my house because, we're fun. Have you been to my house? Have you been there? We've got treats. But I'm going to be honest with you. Have you read this book? Are you 100% sure that you want to follow God? Have you read the book? Do you know what happens in it? Are you 100% sure that you're like, yeah, I want to do that? Are you? And then this, I already said, the second commandment, it's a pretty tough one. Have you met those people out there? Have you? We are called to things that are incredibly difficult. Incredibly difficult. And can I recommend not being pregnant because none of your clothes will ever fit, ever. Side note. Going back to the jeans comment, it's because I miss jeans that, anyway, whatever. But here's the thing. There's a litmus test. There's a litmus test. Is it about loving God, and is it about loving other people? And if it's not, then we are being manipulated and we are being lied to. And that's tough to hear because there are things out there that are so tempting to follow. And Jesus knows that. Jesus wrestles with his own temptations. And Jesus helps the disciples say, I know it's going to be tough. There are going to be times when it's really, really tempting because what I'm calling you to is tough. Folks, what you and I are called to is tough. And I'm not going to lie to you and say that it's all rainbows and butterflies and it's going to be fantastic all the time. Sometimes it's not. But it's worth it. Loving God and loving one another and being loved for who we are and what we are truthfully, that is absolutely worth it. It is absolutely worth it to be seen and to see. It is 100% worth it. But is it tough? Oh yeah, it's tough. Maybe I should read this. Maybe I'd do better. I'd probably wander less on my clothes.
We want you to know that you're welcome to join us at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Please be sure to hit subscribe to receive our sermons. We can't wait to meet you.